If you're watching this video, you're most likely interested in learning how to make beautiful crepe paper flowers with paper like this. Best advice that I can give beginners that are just learning how to make paper flowers is to understand all of the paper that's available to you and the capabilities of each type. So let's start with this paper that you see here. This is 180 gram Italian paper. It's the most prevalent, has the most colors, and you can do the most with it. It's also the type that I recommend for people that are just starting out because it is the most forgiving and easy to work with. I just mentioned this paper comes in tons of different colors, but I want to highlight some really special tones. These two rolls that I'm showing you here are really special. These are ombre crepe. So you can see the colors are an ombre effect, that they're going from darker to lighter and then back into a darker tone. An important note on this paper is even though it has this beautiful ombre effect on one side, on the back you can see that it's just one solid color and doesn't have the ombre effect on both sides. And this of course differs from the solid rolls that I showed you at the beginning of the video where the colors are printed evenly on both sides. You can see that even though the colors aren't printed on both sides, this paper is absolutely gorgeous and worth working with. The last variation of 180 gram Italian paper that I'm going to show you is this metallic paper. This is absolutely stunning. As you can see here, comes in a variety of colors, much more limited, but still beautiful. This blue is one of my absolute favorites. This is similar to the ombre paper in that it is only printed on one side. There are workarounds for having paper that is not the same on both sides. You can learn more about this with the laminating techniques in my book. Let's recap that one more time. So all of the solid colors that I just showed you, the ombre and the metallic, are all 180 gram Italian crepe paper. This is the paper type that you'll find the most options both in terms of color and types, but also in terms of stretch, as you see here. 180 gram crepe can stretch 3 times its original size. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at the crepe paper itself. So you can see these lines going from top to bottom. These vertical lines are the actual paper grain, and it's what allows your paper to stretch out as much or as little as you need. You can also see here, based on how much you stretch, how much the texture of the paper and the color changes. If you're learning to make different types of flowers, you'll be able to use these textural and color changes to your advantage. Let's move on to our next type of crepe paper. This is also Italian crepe paper, but it's 90 gram weight. This weight of crepe actually didn't come out until recently in 2020, so it hasn't been around for too long, but it's one of the ones that I reach for the most. Like the solid 180, it's printed the same color on both sides. And unlike the 180 gram paper, you can see that the machine lines are barely visible. Because it's barely visible, you can make more realistic looking petals. 90 gram crepe can stretch 5 times its original size. So like the 180 gram paper, depending on how little or how much you stretch it, it's going to change the color and it's going to change the texture. You'll be able to learn more about how this stretch and lamination techniques with 90 grams specifically can be applied to many different flowers in my book. Let's move on from Italian paper to German crepe paper. Type specifically is called Dublet crepe paper, or sometimes it's called Gloria crepe. Come in small folds just like this, and they're dual-sided. So usually they're complementary colors like this, so a lighter pink and a darker pink. There are significantly less color options for this paper. The majority of them are the ones that you've already seen pictured here. But the reason why this paper is so valuable is because look how minimal, nearly invisible the machine lines are. So this paper can make the most realistic flowers and leaves because there's really hardly any lines that you're seeing here. The type of doublet that I use the most is actually this white doublet. This one is unique compared to all of the other colors in the range because it is white on both sides. And the reason why I use this so frequently is because this is the perfect paper when you want to color match a specific flower for a specific project. This paper takes acrylic paint, watercolor paint, as well as alcohol ink beautifully. White doublet will be one of the most useful tools in your paper flower toolbox. An important thing to note about doublet paper is the stretch is much more precise as opposed to 180 gram and 90 gram Italian crepe. Paper is far less forgiving, but again, it's all just building your muscle memory and getting comfortable with how these materials work. The learning curve of this paper is absolutely worth it because you're going to be able to make the most beautiful flowers and leaves. Let's move on to our final type of crepe that I'm going to talk to you about today. This is also a German crepe paper and it is a 48 gram weight, often called extra fine crepe paper. In my opinion, this paper is probably the hardest one to work with if you're just starting out because it is so delicate. There isn't a lot of margin for error. Don't let that dissuade you from using it because it's absolutely worth it. As you can see here, the machine lines are barely visible at all, so you're able to make very realistic and delicate petals. Shade range for this weight of crepe is much more limited, but the shades that are available are absolutely gorgeous and worth using. This paper weight is absolutely perfect for poppy petals for the interior of English garden roses. Also works wonderfully for ranunculus. Let me just show you quickly how this paper stretches. You can see it has a really nice stretch to it. The color change when you stretch this paper isn't too significant like other papers. I'll end this here, but thank you so much for watching and learning more about all of the different types of crepe paper available to you.